What's good, y'all? It's your boy HB with Fighter Rider Drop Top Box. I want to talk about Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao. Now, I must say I'm a little bit biased here. I train at the Wild Card Gym, and not only that, but I'm just a huge fan of Manny Pacquiao, and obviously Freddie Roach, awesome dude. You know, just in general, regardless of whether I train there or not, I mean, Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest of fighters of all time, in my opinion. To go through 8 divisions and have success and do it as an undersized fighter is just extraordinary. It makes no sense. It doesn't even seem possible. But I give him extra credit points being undersized as well, because it's really hard to be successful as an undersized fighter in boxing. Obviously, you can turn that disadvantage into an advantage if you know how to, if you develop the skill, the technique, the footwork, the angles, and so on, right? But I give a lot of extra credit points for that, and it just makes it more impressive, and that's why I'm such a huge fan. Same thing with Tyson. You know, I know a lot of people are very critical of Tyson for the type of opponents he beat. But at the end of the day, for one, I think the heavyweights at that time were significantly better technically and skill-wise than the heavyweights of today, even though the heavyweight division is coming back with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Joshua Parker, Deontay Wilder, and Usyk, right? But I think it was just in general, I think boxers were kind of better than they are today. Back then, to me, they were just a lot more skilled, technical, and they had more of a fighting spirit as compared to today. It's more like business oriented. But you know, yeah, Pacquiao's an amazing fighter, man. And he's undersized, and that should be applauded. It should be noted. And even though he's lost to Mayweather, and he lost to Marquez, and he's got a few losses under his belt, it doesn't change the fact that I think he should be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. But let's dive into this, man. I like Spence. Spence is a good fighter, and I like he's kind of changing it up. And I think a lot of the cool thing about these new breed of fighters today is that they're not scared to get a little to throw down a little bit. And I think Spence is an example of that. You know, there was a certain lull in boxing with Mayweather, even though when you watch Mayweather's early fights, he was a pressure fighter. You know, go watch his early fights. He was a pressure fighter, and he would go look for action when he was Pretty Boy Floyd. And then, you know, he kind of tapered off and played it smart and was more efficient, which I don't blame him for. But there was kind of a lull where a lot of African-American fighters, and I'm African-American, so, you know, I'm not talking shit. A lot of African-American fighters believed that you couldn't be defensively responsible if you were moving forward, looking for the fight. And that's just not true. You know, go look at some of the greatest pressure fighters, Roberto Durand, look at Julio Cesar Chavez, look at Triple G as a current example. And yes, are they the most, are they on a defensive level of Mayweather? Are they untouchable? No. Are they Pernell Whitaker like? No. But, you know, they're still very defensively responsible and capable, and they're actually pretty damn good defensively considering they're looking for the fight. And you got to think, if you can take most of your opponents out before the fight ends, you don't have to go 12 rounds. You know, you're saving yourself a lot of damage. Now, you may have to take a few punches along the way, but I mean, 3 hard shots compared to 12-round fight where you're constantly walking a tightrope. I mean, yeah, but anyways, I like Spence because he's kind of a pressure fighter. He looks for the fight. He cuts off the ring well. He attacks the body very well. That's another thing I like about Spence and some of these new age fighters, is that they do their homework. They understand the importance of attacking the body. I've seen so many professional fighters that don't utilize body attacks, and it's beyond me. I don't understand why. Like Sergey Kovalev, right? You saw this when he went up against Andre Ward twice. Like, yes, Sergey Kovalev can land a good body shot here and there, but can he string it together consistently to break his opponent down? And that's a no. And he's never had to do that. And to be fair, you know, he's been a big puncher, so he kind of relied on his power throughout his career, and he wasn't able to figure out ways to break his opponents down without relying on that power. But I like that about Spence. That's a good sign and a characteristic that he's gonna be pretty formidable in the long run. I do have my criticisms of him to a certain extent, because I do think he's kind of one-dimensional in a sense, and I want to be very careful when I say that, because when I say one-dimensional, I'm not saying he's not dynamic or a one-trick pony. It's just that he fights in one style and one style only. He does one thing very well. He's a pressure fighter. He breaks you down, he chops you down, and he tries to get you out of there. And don't get me wrong, he showed some kind of nuances to his game. He'll fight off the back foot a little. You saw that with Danny Garcia. You know, he can counter and stuff like that. But his MO is being a pressure fighter. You know, he likes to get scrappy. And like I said, cut off the ring, go to the body. He has a fairly good jab. I would say the problem with him is, I think, and he has solid defense, but he's kind of stuck within that one style. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be dominant, right, with one style, like Julio Cesar Chavez. Julio Cesar Chavez fought one way, and don't get me wrong, he was very dynamic within that one way of fighting, but it was one way of fighting. Now look at a contrary example like Terrence Crawford, right? Very dynamic. You know, Terrence Crawford, you know, he'll give you so many different looks. He's not stuck within one style. He can fight orthodox southpaw. He can change his guard. He can change his tempo, his pace. He'll fight you in the corner. He'll fight with his back to the ropes. He'll fight you in the pocket. He can brawl. He can box off the back foot. He can become a boxer puncher. He can become a pressure fighter. He can do a lot of different shit. You know, and I think that makes it that when it comes to this elite level and you're getting to the cream of the crop, you're facing fucking Manny Pacquiao. All right, he's seen it all. He's very dynamic, and if this was Manny Pacquiao, young Manny Pacquiao in his prime, I think he demolishes Spence, in my opinion. I really do. I think he demolishes him. But age is real. It is a factor, and Father Time always wins. It's just a question of when. Now, I'm not going to make age the end-all be-all in this fight, because if Pacquiao still has it and he hasn't aged overnight, you know, I think he can win. I still think he can win. But the question is, you know, will age hit him? And, you know, the thing about age is, like, you look at a guy, it's not so much the biggest factor, right? I think it's a little bit overplayed by people. Because look at Bernard Hopkins. Yes, he got knocked the fuck out by a white boy, and that was karma on him for talking shit about white boxers. He got knocked the fuck out of the ring his last fight. You know, Kovalev, you can see his body was starting to betray him when he faced Kovalev. But you know, if that's young Bernard Hopkins, he doesn't lose those fights. But even with Kovalev, he gave Kovalev a good run for his money. He landed some right hands that almost fucked Kovalev up, almost won him the fight. And he landed some right hands. I forgot the fighter that last fighter he fought, but he landed some good right hands on him as well. You know, if his body didn't betray him, that fight might look differently. But still, that being said, Bernard Hopkins fought well, like very late, and he had success. He was beating guys half his age. If I'm not mistaken, he beat John Pascal. He was beating guys who were title contenders, and he was late in age because he understands the sweet science. He has the technique. He has the skill. And, you know, you can overcome almost anything in boxing. That's what's so cool about the sport. You can overcome anything if you have significantly better skills and technique and understanding of the sport. It doesn't matter if your opponent's bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic. Gender can even be thrown out the window. Age. I've been look, I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen girls beat guys in the gym. I've seen 13-year-olds whip up on 18, 21-year-olds, right? I've seen old men whoop up on young men, right? I've seen all the scenarios play out, and there's just one common denominator. That tends to happen when you have significantly better skills and technique than your opponent. I mean, look at Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. Don't get me wrong. Tyson Fury is gifted in the sense that he's like he's huge. He's like 7 feet tall, right? And he's very tall and rangy. But, you look at him compared to Anthony Joshua and you kind of laugh. He's got a kegger. He's kind of fat. He looks out of shape. He's gifted, right? But you look at him compared to Deontay Wilder, and it's like, oh, this is an easy fight to predict if you're a casual fan or you don't understand boxing. But look what Tyson Fury did. He walks him down, knocks him the fuck out, or TKOs him. And why? Because he's just a better boxer. He's able to overcome Deontay Wilder's physical advantages and athletic advantages because he just has superior technique and skill. And you see that play out over and over and over again. And I do believe Manny Pacquiao, even though he is older, I do believe he's I'm not going to say significantly more skilled, but I do believe he's more skilled and technical and more experienced and he's seen it all. And I think that will play a huge factor in this fight. But I think if we got to dumb this down, let's put it like this. I think the key to this fight is going to be Errol Spence's jab. Okay, if Errol Spence can land the jab and time it properly, because he has a good one. He has a good stiff jab and he likes pumping that motherfucker. If he can utilize that jab properly, I think he wins the fight. I think he controls the fight and he wins. Now, how? I don't know. But it can go to scorecards. He could possibly time him and knock him out, or maybe overwhelm him and TKO. But honestly, I'd probably say it would go to scorecards. But if Errol Spence can land his jab consistently and control Manny Pacquiao, I think he wins the fight. That simple. If he doesn't, I think Manny Pacquiao wins. And it's all going to be dependent if he can time Manny Pacquiao, if he can get his timing down. Because obviously Manny Pacquiao before I go off, I think this fight could look something like Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. Even though Teofimo Lopez is an orthodox fighter, it's kind of similar. Teofimo is bigger. Errol Spence is bigger. Manny Pacquiao, southpaw, likes in and out fighter, likes to utilize lots of footwork, angles, and movement. Same thing with Vasily Lomachenko. Obviously a little bit different in stylistically and how they approach that, right? But nonetheless, very similar. Teofimo has a good jab. Errol Spence has a good jab. And Teofimo did a great job of timing Vasily Lomachenko with his jab, controlling him every time he came in. He made him pay a fee. He attacked the body very well, which slowed down Lomachenko throughout the fight. And I think it could be a very similar thing. Errol Spence has a good jab. If he can get the timing down, he can make Manny Pacquiao pay a fee for that in and out style. And he loves to go down to the body. He can take Manny Pacquiao's legs away. If he can do that, but it all starts with the jab. If he can do that, I think he wins this fight. But if he can't land that jab, I think Manny Pacquiao is going to shock the world again. And here's the thing with Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, that in and out style where he's darting in and out, it's great. It's great. It's tricky to deal with. But the downfall to it is it's a little bit easier to kind of time you because it's more apparent. You're jumping in, you're jumping out, The only thing when you face a good in and out fighter, they're going to feint you. They're going to give you different looks. They understand angles, they understand positioning, but most importantly, like I said, they understand feinting and they understand how to counter moving forward. And that's going to be the key. It's that simple. I don't want to make it any more complicated. Can Errol Spence establish his jab in this fight? If he can, he wins. If he doesn't, he loses. But I think another thing to note which may give Manny Pacquiao a little trouble throughout this fight, is he hasn't faced another southpaw in a long time. And the fact that both of them are southpaws, the jab will be there for Errol Spence if he decides to, if he can utilize it. It will be there. And Errol Spence, it will be lined up, right? Because when you have two fighters mirroring each other in stance, it's hard to line that jab up. And even then, you've seen Errol Spence somehow land that jab even when he's facing an opponent that's mirroring him, which is very impressive, which and to me, that should not be scoffed at. You know, his punch placement isn't clean all the time. His timing isn't always clean. But, man, that's Errol Spence for you. That's his style. He's kind of rugged. He's a Texas boy. But I think he has enough tools to overcome some of that, what he lacks sometimes in his timing and his punch placement. And he has lots of volume, which is good. This could be a firework. I mean, this could be a freaking a fireworks show, man. It could be a good firefight. I really do believe that. But Errol Spence has never dealt with anyone like Manny Pacquiao. I think a lot of Manny Pacquiao's opponents underestimate him because he's kind of quiet. He's kind of this nice guy. And, you know, you look at him outside the ring, it doesn't seem like he's doing anything very spectacular or technically proficient. But when you get in there, it's a completely different story. And everybody says that. And I think he has bricks for hands. The speed is there. And he's a lot more slick than opponents give him credit for. So if Errol Spence is going to go in this fight taking him lightly, which I don't think he is, he's in for a rude awakening and a rude surprise. Because Manny Pacquiao, yeah, he comes off as this Christian, nice Filipino little guy, you know, old, back end of his career. But when that motherfucker gets in the ring, he turns into the Tasmanian devil, you know. So I don't want to be wishy-washy here. You know, my heart is with Manny Pacquiao, but my mind is kind of with Errol Spence. But you know what? I'm going to go out on a fucking limb. I'm going to go out on a fucking limb. And I'm going to choose Manny Pacquiao. I don't think Manny Pacquiao would take this fight if he didn't think he could win it. I think he sees something he can exploit and expose. Even though, technically speaking, I think stylistically this is not the best matchup for him at this time. And I think Errol Spence's jab is good enough to where he can control the fight. But I just think that there's something special going on here with Manny Pacquiao. I think he's going to find a way to shock the world once again. And I think Errol Spence is a young gun. He's got a bright future, but I think he's underestimating the OG. And I think he's going to get in there and figure out this dude is not what I thought. I really do think that Pacquiao sees something he can expose, and maybe that's footwork. But I'm pretty sure him and Freddie Roach are coming up with a brilliant game plan. So it's going to be very intriguing to see this fight go down, man. I'm going to go with Manny Pacquiao. Although I'm sitting here and picking with my heart, I'm gonna roll with him. But don't be shocked if Errol Spence goes in there and he establishes jab. He breaks Pacquiao down throughout the fight with his body shots, cuts the ring off, and overwhelms him. I don't think he'll knock Pacquiao out. I don't think it's gonna be a Marquez situation. I think if Spence wins, he's gonna win on the scorecards. But this is my thoughts on the fight. What do y'all think? Tell me your opinions in the comment section below. Subscribe. I'm new to this. I'm building up in the boxing world, man. It's going to take some time. I know I don't got many followers and subscribers, but we'll do it, baby. And I'll remember the ones who started with me. Like the video, please. And like I said, let me know what you think, man. I love talking sports. I love talking boxing. I love hearing people's opinions. It's all in good fun and nature, man. But peace, love, be safe, y'all. And until another one, get at me.